Hey there everyone, and welcome to my Genshin Impact adventure. Recently, Ningguang's Orchid's evening gown outfit was released, and in celebration, I wanted to put together a Ningguang guide. In this guide, I will be giving an overview of Ningguang's talents, including some tech and usage tips, then discuss gameplay and build recommendations. I'm aiming to keep this short, sweet, and to the point, so let's get right into it. Ningguang's normal attack is Sparkling Scatter. Upon use, she throws two small rocks at a single nearby target. The rocks will home in on that target, and when they hit, Ningguang will receive a Star Jade. She can get up to 3 of these by using her normal attacks. When she uses a charged attack, all of her Star Jades will be launched at the enemies, and each will deal an additional instance of damage. Finally, once she has her first Ascension talent, Backup Plan, her charged attacks will not use stamina if she has at least 1 Star Jade. That's all pretty straightforward, but there are some interesting quirks as well. First off, her normal attack comes out pretty slowly if you're only using left click. You can make it come out a lot faster by animation canceling. In this case, the animation cancel is really simple. You literally just do the input for walking forward while you attack. Another thing to note is that if you use a single normal attack and then immediately go into a charged attack, you will probably still consume stamina. This happens because the charged attack consumes stamina on startup, so if you do it too quickly, it may start up before you get the Star Jade from the normal attack. You'll get optimal DPS from 1 normal attack then 1 charged attack, but for stamina conservation purposes, you may want to do 2 normal attacks then 1 charged attack instead. Lastly, Star Jades count as charge attack damage. I'm not sure this information has any sort of practical application, but it couldn't hurt to know it. Ningguang's elemental skill is Jade Screen. Upon casting, it opens up a wide screen in front of her, dealing damage in an area near the screen. When it hits enemies, it will generate 3 geoparticles. The screen is a geoconstruct that cannot be climbed, and it will block enemy attacks that are classified as projectiles, like Hilly Turtle arrows or Ruin Guard missiles. It has a fixed amount of HP that scales off of Ningguang's HP, so in all likelihood it probably won't be able to take too much punishment before breaking. After reaching Ascension level 4 and getting her Strategic Reserve talent, running through the screen will grant a 12% geo damage bonus for 10 seconds. Like all geo constructs, attempting to cast this right on top of a boss will get it destroyed immediately. Fortunately, the damage hitbox is deceptively large, and its size can be roughly approximated by the shockwave that emanates from the screen when it is cast. So it actually extends a little beyond the screen and even slightly behind Ningguang herself. This means that if you space it correctly, you can get the damage from the screen without having it instantly get destroyed. Ningguang's elemental burst is Star Shatter. Upon use, she will rise into the air and summon 6 large pieces of jade, which will home in on enemies in front of her. If she has a jade screen nearby, it will be destroyed in order to create 6 additional pieces of jade, which will also home in on nearby enemies. There are 2 things to keep in mind for this talent. First is that the jade pieces will shatter on collision with objects or obstacles, so try not to be too close to any walls or geoconstructs or the like when starting it up. Second is that the jade pieces don't seem to pick a target until just before they start moving, so if the enemies move out of range during the startup phase, the jades will just fly off into the void. However, once they've locked on and started moving, they're pretty good at tracking down their targets, and can even chase a dashing or teleporting enemy. For a quick rundown of her Constellations, C1 makes her normal attacks deal AoE damage. It's nice, but not really anything to write home about. C2 causes the Jade screen cooldown to reset if the screen is destroyed. This includes when it is destroyed by using Star Shatter. The effect can only occur once every 6 seconds, and additionally, the Jade screen will only produce geoparticles once every 6 seconds. You can try to manage this particle cooldown if you want, but Star Shatter only costs 40 energy, so it's usually okay to just use the Jade screen immediately, regardless of whether you get energy from it. C3 and C5 are the usual Elemental Burst and Elemental Skill talent level upgrades. C4 increases Elemental Res for characters standing near a Jade screen, which might help in some very rare instances, but it's mostly useless. C6 gives her 7 Star Jades when she uses Star Shatter, which will significantly increase the damage of her next charged attack. If you're using Ningguang in an on-field damage roll, you'll mostly be using either one normal attack followed by one charged attack, or two normal attacks followed by one charged attack, depending on how you prefer to manage your stamina. Try to have a Jade screen on the field as much as possible, and run through it periodically for the Geo damage bonus. If you ever have both Jade Screen and Star Shatter off cooldown, I would advise you to cast Jade Screen, quickly run through it, then immediately cast Star Shatter. Star Shatter consumes energy on startup, so if you use it quickly enough, you can pick up the energy particles from the Jade Screen to charge up for your next cast. If you're using Ningguang in an off-field roll, where you just swap her in to use her skill and burst, you basically do the same thing, but without the normal attacks. Just switch her in, drop a Jade Screen, run through, and cast Star Shatter. If you have C2, you can drop another Jade Screen before switching her out. If you have C6, you can also use a charged attack before switching her out. As with any character, the way you build Ningguang depends heavily on how you want to use her. Let's start with talents. As an on-field damage dealer, she wants levels on all her talents, with priority given to her normal attack and elemental burst. As an off-field damage dealer, she really only needs levels on her elemental skill and elemental burst. However, if she has C6, I would recommend leveling her normal attack at least a little, so she can take advantage of the free Star Jades. For artifacts, she mostly wants crit, attack, and geo damage. For an on-field roll, I recommend 2 pieces of Archaic Petra, and 2 pieces of either Gladiator's Finale or Shimenawa's Reminiscence. For an off-field roll, you could use 2 pieces of Archaic Petra and 2 pieces of Noblesse Oblige instead. If you really want to go hard for the support roll, you could use 4 pieces of Noblesse Oblige instead, since she has a relatively spammable burst with a 12-second cooldown and a 40 energy cost. She will want an attack percent sans, a geo damage bonus goblet, and a crit rate or crit damage circlet. Ideally, you will want to get close to a 1-to-2 ratio on crit rate versus crit damage, meaning that your crit damage should be about 2 times your crit rate. In terms of weapons, I rank them as follows. Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds is at the top because it has good base attack and crit rate as its secondary stat. Skyward Atlas and Sacred Memory of Dust are next because of their good base attack stats and useful attack percent secondary stats. The Wood Sith and the Solar Pearl come after that, due to their decent base attack and crit secondary stats, although both of these weapons do have drawbacks. The Wood Sith's Elemental Mastery roll doesn't do very much for her, although of course if it gets the attack percent roll or the elemental damage roll, those are both fantastic. And Solar Pearl is locked behind the Battle Pass and doesn't increase her charge attack damage. However, they are both serviceable weapons. She can also viably use Dodo Coattails, the limited event weapon from the Golden Apple Archipelago if you have it. Situationally, she can use Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, Prototype Amber, and Hakushin Ring on a pure support build in certain team compositions, if that's the sort of thing you want to go for. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them over more DPS-oriented options, but it's your game, you play it how you want. Other options, however, are either overshadowed by the aforementioned weapons, or simply not useful for her. And that is it. Thanks so much for watching this guide on building and playing Ningguang. I hope you found it useful, and I wish you all the best of luck in your future Genshin Impact adventures.